Do you want to know the Oblates?
Discover our life and mission.
Join us!
When I was ordained, my spiritual director challenged me. He said, if you cannot inspire or encourage someone to become a priest and follow your footsteps, then you're a failure as a priest. Okay, I'm Richard Donald Weixelman. My mother's side, they were from Ireland. My grandparents on my mother's side from Ireland. On my father's side from Austria. Not Australia, but Austria. They were German speaking. I was born in the United States in 1939. I'm the eldest of 8, 5 boys, 3 girls. And so it was a simple family. We were not rich, but we were never hungry. So I never experienced hunger. Had the opportunity to go to the parish Catholic school. It's not an exclusive school, but it was a Catholic school. We never missed Mass on Sunday. We had the family rosary. And my parents had a great respect for the priests, so I grew up with a great respect for priests also. In school, the Catholic school, I was not a good student. I was a much better athlete than I was a student. And I loved basketball, baseball, American football. But I probably got most of my ribbons in swimming. And I tried out for the Junior Olympics. In my mind, there was an attraction towards going to the missions, being a priest, not a diocesan priest. I had great respect for the diocesan priests. I went to Mass every Sunday. In fact, my parents began going to daily Mass and Communion, and I began going also. But I often had many distractions, but several of the gospel stories, parables, really got my attention during the Mass and also in our religion class. The Good Samaritan, we all are familiar with the parable, but at the end he says, you be a good Samaritan. Richard, if you're going to follow me, you be a good Samaritan. So I asked myself, to be a Catholic, I have to be a good Samaritan. Now, how can I be a good Samaritan? The first thing that came to my mind was medicine. If I become a doctor, man, you can heal lots of people. And I said, I'm not smart enough to be a doctor. Couldn't afford it anyway. Then lawyers might laugh at this, but I said, become a lawyer. Maybe I can help poor people if I become a lawyer. Maybe I can be a priest. Maybe I'm smart enough to be a priest. I'll try. And then I never heard of the Oblates. I never heard of an Oblate priest. But in the 8th grade, a boy transferred to our class. And he started talking about the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate. Well, the word missionary, I had no idea what an oblate was. I'd never seen an oblate. But the word missionary got my attention. But then when I talked to my parish priest about going to the seminary, he did not approve of me going to the Oblates. He wanted me to be a diocesan priest and sent me to the Capuchin and spent there 3 years. But I didn't want to be a diocesan priest. I didn't want to be a Capuchin. I kept thinking about I still had not seen an oblate, but I was still thinking about missionary oblates. So my 4th year in high school, I talked to my spiritual director in the seminary, and I said, I still would like to go check out these oblates. Well, then don't pay any attention to your parish priest. You don't need his permission. You just go if that's what you really want. So I wrote a letter to the Oblates, and I was accepted. And so when I arrived at the Oblate Seminary, that was the first day I ever saw an Oblate. And there was a statue of Eugene de Mazenod, and I have to say, the statue did not impress me. But over the years, I've learned to love and admire de Mazenod very much, especially after the de Mazenod experience in France. Several times I went to my spiritual director and said, I think I have to leave the seminary. Why? He says, I think I'm too stupid. I'm the second bottom in the class. And he says, no, you're not that stupid. It's your classmates are just very, very intelligent. And it makes you look dumb. And then honestly, I said, I think my only talent was sports. I was poor in Latin, and when I was with the Capuchins, we had German and Latin. I couldn't learn Latin, I couldn't learn German. With the Oblates, we had Greek and French, and in Latin, I still couldn't learn Latin and French. And so I was terrible in languages. And so I said, I think I have to leave. I'm only good in sports. I'm not good in any of these other stuff. And he says, no, you can make it, you can make it. So after ordination, we have the opportunity, the privilege to write a letter to our Superior General in Rome and telling him, give him three options, three things that we would like, what we would like to do as an Oblate, missionary Oblate priest. And I put down Philippines, Brazil, and southern Mexico. I really wanted to go to the foreign missions. Why the Philippines? Well, in the 8th grade, it's Sunday Mass, I'm with my friend Joe, and this girl walks up the center aisle. And I said, gosh, who's that? He says, oh, that's a girl from the Philippines. And she was really cute. And I heard of the Philippines, had no idea where the Philippines was. And this was the first Filipino family ever to move into Manhattan, Kansas, where I grew up. Well, a few nights later, I was playing baseball that night under the lights, night game, and my friend Joe was on the same team. And he said, see that little boy over there? That's the brother of that girl you saw in church. So I walked over to him, and he was very shy, and I said, hello, my name is Richard. What's your name? My name is Jaime, or James, Jaime. And I said, he was kind of shy, and he wasn't very interested to talk to me, but I said, where do you live? And he told me, and not so far from where I live. And I said, I'll come and visit you tomorrow. And he wasn't that excited about it, no expression. So the next morning I got on my bicycle and rode my bicycle up to the house, knocked on the door, and his mother, a small Filipino lady, answered the door. It's summertime, and she was surprised to see this American boy, white boy there. And I said, hello, my name is Richard. I come to play with James. And he says, she was so, I could see in her face, she was, James, come here. She almost had to drag him. No, he was shy, he was not so interested. But the mother really was happy that an American boy was coming to play with her son. Well, we sat on the steps. I didn't go in the house, but I kept peeping in, trying to see his sister. The funny story, when I finally found out, she was 18 years old and I was 12 years old. But James and I became good friends. And their home became my second home. And that's where I learned to start eating Filipino food. And his mother, James's mother Maria, she just was so fond of me. So that was my first introduction to Philippines. And so that kind of planted something in my mind. And then in the seminary, the Central Province in the United States, their main big mission was the Philippines. So many Oblates, American Oblates, came from our province. I could list a whole bunch of names. And then one of the Oblates in the Philippines came and gave us a talk in the seminary. And he showed some pictures of Mindanao and Sulu. And I said, wow, these are interesting missions. But then I was so poor in languages that somebody asked, what do they speak in the Philippines? And he answered crazy, everybody speaks English. That's what he said. He said, man, that's the place for me if I want to go to the foreign missions, because I'm really poor in languages. So that was one of the reasons that I ended up probably putting the Philippines first. My relationship with the Filipino family in my hometown, and I liked them very much. In the pictures and stories I heard about our missions in Mindanao and Sulu, and then the language thing, which is, so I got my first choice. My first choice was the Philippines, and I got it. So I arrived in Manila. I came by boat, 21 days on boat. And then I arrived on January 7, 1967, and I got my assignment to Sulu, Siasi Sulu, and I was so excited about that. So my first assignments were in Sulu. But I didn't know anything about Islam, and I remember passing from Manila to Cotabato before going to Sulu, and I was invited to talk to the juniors in the seminary there. And I only learned later it was Mercado, but Father Mercado was the seminarian at that time, and he said he asked me a question. You're going to the Sulu for the Muslims, what do you know about Islam? And so I said, I don't know anything. What do you think you're going to do down there? I said, I'm just going to try to be a good person and be as close as I can with the people, and see what happens from there. I wanted to go to a place, to really present the gospel in a simple way. I found no difficulty at all. Even the Muslims would tell me, Father, don't go to that place. They would warn me. They took care of me too. Be careful, be careful. Things changed very much in the late 70s and the 80s. When I first arrived in the Philippines, Father Gordon said, Wax, be close to the men. It's easy to be close to the women in the Philippines. They're the ones who are so active, and they get things done. And you'll end up depending upon the women all the time because they're already ready to go, ready to go. But if you're always just working with the women, you're kind of leaving the men behind. Really make your effort to be close to the men. You won't lose the women. They'll even become more active to try to get your attention. But really try to focus on the men. So before the ordination, we walked down to the Oblate cemetery with my good friend Bill Barrett. And we're looking at the graves, the markers of the Oblate priests in that cemetery there. And I said, I wonder if I'm ordained, will I die? Will I persevere as a priest and be buried in the cemetery with priests? And my friend Bill said, oh, Waxy, of course, you're talking crazy now. You can do it, you can do it. But that day, everybody was so happy, but inside, it's like something had died. Also, I mean, this sounds kind of crazy, but I mean, that having a family, the married life and stuff, that's over. That's really gone now. I made that commitment. The strange thing is my friend who encouraged me, he left the priesthood after 5 years. And like 30 years later, we got in touch with each other. And he said, Wax, remember when we went to, they call me Wax, that's my nickname, Wax. He said, Wax, remember we went to the cemetery? And I said, you can make it? Well, I'm the one that left. You chose the better part. He said, I love my wife, I love my kids, but you chose the better part.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe
to our YouTube channel,
Oblate TV.